Welcome back to the Price Swap Podcast. Today we're here with Arun Kanth of Zeus Hygia, and this is a super cool company name, by the way. Today we're going to do a quick two-part episode where we're going to talk about a new ingredient called Gremin, and this is a curcumin and green coffee extract combination. It's kind of bringing curcumin into the sports nutrition space. So we're pretty excited about what's going on here. So Arun, welcome to the show. Thanks for coming. And please give us an introduction on yourself and your company and how you founded it. And then we'll get into the ingredient.
Absolutely. Thank you very much, Mike. Thank you, Ben, for having me here. As you said, myself, Dr. Arun, the founder and director of Zeus Hygia Life Sciences India. I'm basically from a scientific background, and I hold a postgraduate. I'm a postgraduate in pharmacy and PhD. I'm from technical side, and I worked with major pharmaceutical companies in India before venturing into Zeus Hygia Life Sciences. I was mainly into the research and development arena, and prior to starting Zeus, I lived in South Korea for around 5 to 6 years, wherein I was working with a major biotechnology company called Tyshawn Inc. And I was heading their R&D for small molecules. There I was working in. Though I was leading the R&D, I was working with various departments, very closely, like in business development, marketing, regulatory, and even in project management. So this has ignited the entrepreneurial spirit in me, and I decided to come back to India and start my own venture. So that's how my entrepreneurial journey started. So in 2017, I came back to India. And 2018, I started this venture along with my classmate and very close friend Shankar. So Shankar is also from pharma background, and he was having rich nutraceutical experience. So I was completely from pharma side, and he's from nutra side. And in 2018, we started the operations of Zeus Hygia Life Sciences. So, as I mentioned, we didn't have any entrepreneurial background. So, honestly, from a very humble middle class, non-entrepreneurial, background, at the initial days, no venture backing, no mentoring, but we were passionate. So we wanted to do something different in the industry. We wanted to create a unique space in the industry. And we were very confident. We were very confident that we are in the right domain. We're in the right nutraceutical field wherein innovations are being accepted. So having said that, since I was from the pharmaceutical research domain, so wanted to leverage those research experience in the nutraceutical space. Wanted to create ingredients with a difference. That's how we started Zeus in 2018 with the tagline of efficacy matters. Yeah.
Okay, excellent. So going back to South Korea, the biotech company you were with, that was pharmaceutical, that was not in dietary supplements?
Not at all. They were completely into biotechnology, and at some point of time, they were venturing into cosmeceutical products also.
Okay, and I think you mentioned smart molecules. Is that?
Yeah.
Could you explain that really quickly? That might not be what you're doing, but it sounds interesting.
Yeah.
What is the smart molecule?
Like small molecules mainly, considered as chemical entities like pharmaceutical products. Biotechnology is mainly into large molecules. So I was handling the small molecule side because my experience and expertise was completely into generic small molecule pharma development focused on US market.
I see. Okay. I gotcha. Sorry. Yeah. Okay. So you decide that like business ownership sounds really cool, which it is. It's stressful and it's hard work and all that, but it is fun and it is interesting. And you get to set some level of your own innovation out there. So did you have the ingredients in mind first, or did you just decide that you wanted to do something and you figured it out second? Like, what was the first thing you did?
Yeah, I mean, like, first thing, of course, was we wanted to, enter into the nutraceutical space. Ingredients were not there, actually. We have not shortlisted any ingredients. We wanted to create a unique ingredient, develop, certain platform technologies, and bring in the value addition. That was a, like, primer target. So, like, once we decided to start this, then we started scouting for the ingredients, analyze, do the market analysis. We were completely naive during that time, actually. Like, some fire was there. We jumped into the industry, jumped into the entrepreneur journey, started, but we never knew, like, what we wanted to do at the initial stages, actually. What kind of ingredients you want to develop. And slowly we learned it, actually, during over a period of time.
Okay, so what was the first thing that you did? Because I know we're going to talk a little bit about Gremin today, but when we
Yeah.
first met you, there was a different ingredient that's in an Onnit supplement that we kind of saw as first as well. So which one came first? Like, what was your first like launch?
So, like, the obvious choice was turmeric, like curcumin, because from the childhood, even in your food, even in your supplements, you are, like, familiar with turmeric. And, when we decided to develop, the first one came to our mind was curcumin. The market was also really good, very potential market. And it was a very well studied and proven ingredient in that space. But when we decided to develop a branded ingredient out of curcumin, we were pretty sure that we wanted to make a next gen branded curcumin, which is devoid of piperin or any other harsh surfactants or harsh chemical additives. Mostly focused on a clean and green curcumin, which solves the challenges of curcumin in a turmeric extract, like solubility, like bioavailability, or clinical efficacy. So that's how we developed branded biosol curcumin based on our proprietary platform technology, which has been clinically studied for its benefits in the joint wellness and immunity segments. So today we could proudly say that it has got a patent granted in India and patent pending in US for its processing technology. And likely, this biosol curcumin would be the most effective curcumin in the joint wellness area with at a very minimal daily dose, like only 100 milligram of curcuminoids is the daily intake based on our clinical studies. Yeah.
Okay, so getting back to you wanted a curcumin. You said like without piperine or anything harsh. Like, can you explain what makes some other curcumin ingredients kind of like harsh, or the processing of it? Like, what exactly is harsh?
Yeah, most of the cases, like, traditionally they use piperin as a bioenhancer. That's one way to do it. And other cases, they may use some additives like lecithin, or some of these surfactants are being used in larger quantities, which is not really advisable on a long-term use. So, those additives we wanted to, make sure that we don't use some of those additives, um, you know, because consumer may use it for a longer time, because joint wellness, arthritis kind of segments, it's not like a sugar leaf areas, wherein you will have to consume these supplements for a longer period of time. On a longer usage, it may end up in gastric irritations or some other adverse events. So that's how we decided to develop more of a clean or food ingredient based ingredient, biosol curcumin, which is proven to be effective, which we wanted to ensure that at a minimal daily dose, it should be effective.
Yeah, minimal
Yeah.
effective dose is important. So yeah, I'm not sure if we've talked about this too much on the podcast, but like, okay, so first off, yeah, piperine is a spice, and so there's the one study, of course, that shows that curcumin bioavailability enhanced 2,000% with piperine. So
Yeah.
everyone always cites that study, and it is used a lot. I think what happens though is that piperine, it inhibits the liver's ability to detoxify certain like drug class molecules. And
Yeah,
on a long enough clip, that might not be a good idea because we want our livers doing detoxification to a degree, at least to a good degree. Depends on how much of the degree. But if you're taking this stuff every single day, you might be shutting down things that you need your liver to clear out, and that's
Yeah.
and so that's I definitely understand the concern there. So you have this combination of green coffee extract and okay, so you're talking about you have a patent and you're patent pending in America,
Yeah.
which is pretty cool. What exactly are you patent pending for? Is it the combination of two things, or is it the microencapsulation type process, or what is your IP right now?
See, the IP revolves around both the combination as well as the technology. Yeah. So when we wanted to enter into the sports nutrition ingredient domain, moving forward from curcumin to the next ingredient, we were searching for a plant-based ingredient in that category, effectively supports the recovery, endurance and overall muscle health. However, it was challenging to find any suitable plant-based options in that category because the space was mostly dominated by synthetic or animal-based ingredients, which is being traditionally used over a period of time, like carnitine or branched-chain amino acids or creatinine or like HMB kind of ingredients, which has been traditionally used, of course. I agree they're working well, but synthetic or animal sourced foods. Then there comes a gap for a next, then like you can develop a plant-based ingredient, very potential and can be positioned in that area. That's how we decided that we should address that gap by developing a clean and green proprietary plant-based ingredient, and we ended up developing Gremin in that category.
Okay, so there's a technology that's combining the two, but it's also, of
Yeah,
course, the selection.
yeah.
So can you kind of describe like what the not what the molecule looks like, but what the combination kind of looks like? Are you doing like a lipid type encapsulation? Like we see a lot of stuff about phytosomes and you mentioned lecithin before. Sometimes people just globulate it in a terrible word to use, but they just put it in a big old lecithin glob and everything. Can you explain your technology a little bit and how you're combining these two?
Well, Mike, as you rightly said, it's a combination of two different actives. So when you say it's not a physical blend of two different actives, for example, we are combining green coffee extract and turmeric extract. The characteristics of these two actives are entirely different. I would say green coffee is highly soluble in nature, whereas curcumin is highly insoluble. Green coffee is highly hygroscopic. If you keep it open for some time, it may get deliquescent in nature. So green coffee is highly hygroscopic, and at the same time, it is, like highly bitter in nature. Curcumin is insoluble, poorly absorbed with limited bioavailability. So when you're combining two actives with the two different characteristics, it's, like if you are just simply blending it, you're not going to get that desired benefits. So there comes the role of this particular processing technology. There you have we have encapsulated this green coffee extract with turmeric extract into a carrier, into a food-based carrier, wherein it involves multiple stages of processing, just like encapsulation, then followed by spray drying. This finally spray dried product comes with the advantages of masking the like bitterness of green coffee extract and addressing these stability issues or hygroscopy issues of green coffee extract. At the same time, it improves the solubility and bioavailability of curcumin also. Overall, this addresses all the challenges of both these bioactives, ensuring that you are yielding a like soluble, bioavailable, and effective ingredient under the brand name Gremin using this particular technology. That's the advantage of this technology. And having said that, we are the first company to introduce a combination of green coffee with turmeric. When you tell green coffee, it is decaffeinated green coffee, just to ensure that we don't focus on the caffeine part. We are focusing on the chlorogenic part. So this decaffeinated green coffee extract and curcumin. So we are the first one to introduce in the market, and that's how we got a patent granted in India, and we are awaiting a patent in US also.
So the technology that you use to put these two ingredients together, early on,
Yeah.
I know that you mentioned that you were focused on making a curcumin ingredient, but does that technology, have you guys looked at using it for other ingredients? Is that a goal of yours to use that technology in other ways, or are you guys all in on the curcumin and green coffee bean combination?
Ah, yeah. Well, then that's an interesting question. Like, so this can be used as a platform technology. You can explore other ingredients also to improve the properties using this technology. And we have developed one more ingredient using this, like a couple more ingredients with slight fine tuning of the technology. Of course, it's a platform technology.
Yeah. You were
Yeah.
talking about the things that you used the technology to address, and I thought of a few other ingredients that could use that help that you've talked about.
Yeah. Yeah.
But obviously, you've invested in this ingredient. You have a study on this ingredient. Can we talk about what you found about the ingredient and its application?
Yeah. So interestingly, like Gremin is being backed with the two published human clinical studies, and we have got two more, animal safety and efficacy studies on this ingredient. Gremin has been proven for its muscle recovery, endurance, muscle strength, and like managing the fatigueness. Overall, as a sports and active nutrition ingredient based on the clinical studies conducted. So, as I mentioned, we have got two clinical studies. The first clinical study we have done on around 16 healthy subjects, active gym going subjects, having an age range of around 20 to 30. Very young, dynamic subjects, the first study. The second study was done on 60, around 60 subjects. Age group was ranging around 30 to 50, 30. On an average, it is around 40. So we have covered both the age groups, 20 to 30 and 30 to 40, 50 age groups, two studies. And the first study we did on 500 milligram twice a day dose, and the second study was on 500 milligram single dose. So we covered a dose range also. We covered a dose range. We covered that like age group range, and both the studies we did it on healthy human subjects, very active, gym going, group of population.
Okay, yeah. So we have an article, and we'll link to this in the show notes that kind of gets into a couple of these studies. So to repeat, that was 500 milligrams twice a day, and then but the second one was just 500 milligrams once a day, and
Yeah.
so the second one I know had like some endurance and performance stuff to it, which makes sense. Like we kind of expect to get a reduction of soreness and like inflammation from the curcumin, and we've seen green coffee extracts, the chlorogenic acids and everything provide all sorts of like
Yeah.
benefits. I'm guessing there's probably cognitive benefits in here as well. But in general, like it seems like you had an increase in like stamina and some strength as well, which is pretty cool. So is that taken? So yeah. What are the applications here? Looking at that second study where we see like an increase in strength and stamina, do you have to take it pre-workout? Because it's kind of a recovery ingredient, but it seems like it could be used possibly pre-workout. So where are the applications best?
Yeah, basically this can be positioned as a post-recovery, post-workout supplement. It can go into post-workout supplements. Like the second study we have done, we have used various biomarkers and instruments to measure the, like efficacy. Like, like we have used VO2 max, then 6-minute walk testing. Then we have used grip strength. Then, like we have done DEXA scan also to analyze the fat-free mass. So, no, it was a combination of, like instruments as well as biomarkers to understand the recovery, to understand the endurance, to understand that, fatigueness scale, then of course muscle strength and muscle health overall. So the results were really interesting and very significant results observed during this 14-day study.
And that was just 14 days, huh? So
Yeah.
So results in 2 weeks. Did you? That's awesome. Okay, so that's less than a whole like tub of a supplement. Were there any? Was 14 days the soonest that you start seeing like significant results?
Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. Yeah. Oftentimes it takes 28 days, so that's decent.
Yeah.
Okay. Cool. Anything else with this? Like, so you're talking about post workout. So basically, like, would you could put, it's just kind of unique seeing green coffee extract and curcumin, but you could add it to basically a post workout kind of protein powder. Is that what you would do with it, or what are some of the things that you would put it into?
Yeah. Very interestingly, as I initially told, this Gremin comes with a neutral taste, and it is a water dispersible powder. So you can see protein powder mainly focused on the strengthening of the muscles and boosting your workout or endurance stamina. So associated muscle wear and tear, muscle soreness, sometimes fatigueness during workout or post workout can be addressed when you combine Gremin with protein powders. So it doesn't affect the taste because it's neutrally tasted. This is an encapsulated ingredient. So there are already commercially launched products in India wherein they are combining Gremin with protein powders. So as a protein powder, a supplement, or in protein powder bars also, Gremin with protein powder bars as well. So that could be an interesting combination. Considering as I initially stated, most of this market is dominated by amino acids or other synthetic and animal-based origin ingredients. Incorporating a plant-based ingredient with the plant-based protein, you could have a complete clean label, supplement in the market. So Gremin could be an ideal choice in the post-workout supplement category, especially when you are, looking for something to combine with plant-based products.
Okay, I see kind of the angle. You've kind of mentioned plant-based multiple times, so it's obvious that, and it makes sense coming, from India and everything. But yeah, so it makes sense like targeting the vegetarians, the vegans, and the people who oftentimes don't want to or cannot use some of the ingredients that we like to use, for instance. So I can see that like a performance type ingredient for that market actually makes a good bit of sense. Getting in front of the right brands for that. Okay, gotcha. Is this so 500 milligrams? Can we get that into gummies?
500 milligram. Likely we have gummies developed, but 250 milligram gummies. Probably you can go for twice a day. Gummies, could be an option when you. So it has got the limitations of higher dose. So 250 milligram can be, used in a gummy composition. So and one more thing I just wanted to add, Gremin is going into sports hydration supplements also. It can be combined with the electrolytes. It can be combined with the other bioactives, which synergistically works with the Gremin, and sports hydration powder supplements could be an interesting area wherein this ingredient can go into.
Can I ask? You said that it's a neutral flavored ingredient, but turmeric itself on its own is typically not considered to be neutral flavored. Is the technology that you're adding offsetting that, or is it the inclusion of the green coffee bean that helps with that? Because that's really cool to me. I mean, that to me is another big benefit, is taking turmeric and making it easier to flavor, whereas typically it's kind of spicy and orange, and it could be more difficult in using an application.
Yeah, well, this being an encapsulated product, as I mentioned initially, so green coffee, that bitterness of green coffee is masked here because it's been encapsulated with a carrier. So So you don't feel that taste or bitterness when you are mixing it in water or other solutions. So that gives that advantage to ready to use.
Cool.
Yeah, and it's not just limited to sports hydration or protein powder. It can go into other dosage forms also. One of the top selling products in India, uh, combining Gremin with Shilajit for endurance, male wellness category. That's also one of the very interesting positioning for this ingredient.
For sure.
Yeah,
Interesting. I could see some people just wanting to use it for the taste application itself, because then you have benefits of curcumin. And there's always been traditional problems getting curcumin into powdered supplements. Obviously, you're not going to taste it in a capsule or anything, but if it truly is tasteless, like, some people might want to get some samples and see if they can work it into a powder, because that itself is an opportunity. That's pretty cool. Okay, awesome. Well, yeah. So is there much else to add? Like, do you have anything? What's coming next besides assuming like?
like I just wanted to inform officially that I know initially I stated that when we started, we were not backed with any vendors. Okay, never had any vendors. So now, yesterday we officially announced our first Series A funding, and now we are officially venture backed, and now we are, uh, very aggressively exploring the international markets, and these funds we are planning to use to develop more science and add more science into the ingredients already developed and develop more science backed ingredients. So that's the plan. So we have more studies coming up for Gremin in the future for long term studies, and we have few more ingredients also under development, targeting the sports wellness areas. Then we have something coming up in the women health, um, you know, and we have one developed for the esports category. So a lot of development happening in the pipeline. With respect to Gremin, we have few more science, planning clinical studies are planned, which may happen in the next year, in the near future.
Okay, that's incredible. So if someone's listening to this and they would like to try a sample of this, can they just get a hold of you? And I'm talking about brands and formulators generally. Like, how can people work with you in terms of getting their hands on a little bit to formulate in their manufacturing facility or on their desktop lab?
Yeah, interesting. Like now we have our own US office also, and our samples are readily available in New York side, New York, New Jersey side. We have our team sitting there in New York, New Jersey, and samples are immediately quickly available for development. And we have our warehouse also in New Jersey, New York side. So that will help us for the quicker supply. So we are addressing the gaps one by one.
Always in New Jersey. Before we just returned from a conference, and it's like half New Jersey people. So Ben's just living like, it's like Ben didn't even leave his home. But it's always funny. There's always stuff coming into this industry. I never would have known it. It was all stored in New Jersey. So hats off to Ben. He's over there. Okay, cool. Any of your other ingredients? Like, we've only talked really about Gremin. Have you? But we originally you had like a mangaferin based ingredient as well. Is that still something that you're doing?
Yeah, absolutely. That would be very exciting to talk about Mangifera indica extract, because uh, that's being studied for one of the very interesting areas, like improving the focus, alertness, memory. During gaming, and during the esports, like activities. So Stadice again comes with certain value addition, like uh, it has been developed using a proprietary processing, which improves its solubility and clinical efficacy. So Studies has been backed with a published clinical study, and interestingly, Studies is already launched in US. We are working with Vonage Nutrition, like one of their leading supplement brands called Alpha Brain contains Stadice. And we will have a second clinical design also ready in a couple of weeks' time, which I'm very keen to discuss with you guys also.
Awesome. And just so if anyone's like wondering, it's spelled Stadice. And so this it's one of Onnit's pre-workouts. I don't have it up right now, which exact one, but right when we first met, and I was like, oh, if you've already gotten approval with Onnit, that's a good sign. They're not a small company, so I know they have a pretty thorough regulatory team and scientific team. So that's pretty cool. Congratulations on working with them.
Yeah.
Okay, so we'll definitely want to get into that in the future. So for the second half of this, we're going to introduce someone named Tyshawn, who we haven't talked to ever on the Price Well podcast before either. And I think he's going to kind of just go through his experiences with Gremin, and kind of we'll just introduce him as well and kind of get his background and listen to his like N=1 type experiment. So that's what's going to come up next. Arun, do you have anything else to add to this before we sign off?
Yeah. So when you told about Tyshawn, like interestingly, Tyshawn and we were somewhere in some of the expos, and he's a 8-pack, 6 feet, well built, bodybuilder, and he was telling that he was having some elbow pain and some muscle soreness during workout. Then I told, why don't you try Gremin capsules sometimes? So that's how, I asked him to try, and he came up with a very interesting, very positive feedback on Gremin. So I thought he will be the right candidate to talk about Gremin and its benefits going forward.
Okay, cool. Yeah, we'll get his story up next, and then we'll have to wait until we talk to him to post this up and everything. So where can people follow you? Are you on LinkedIn, or can you tell us your social media accounts for Zeus or anything like that?
We are very active on LinkedIn. We are very active on Facebook. We have our website to reach out to us to our email info@zeushygia.com. And we have our US office, which can be connected through USA@zeushygia.com. So LinkedIn is the active platform wherein you can immediately reach out to us.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, thank you for your time, Arun.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, and stay tuned for the second part with Mr. Tyshawn. All right, we're back with part 2 of this episode. Tyshawn Bryant out there in Los Angeles, California. You are running a business called Green Regimen, I believe. So welcome to the show and everything. We just got off talking with Arun from Zeus Hygia, and we were talking about Gremin, and he said, we got to talk to Ty. So Ty, welcome to the show. How's it going?
It's going absolutely fantastic. The weather's beautiful out here in LA, so I have zero complaints.
Nice. There was that earthquake in Russia last night. So today's July 30th of 2025. That's when we're recording this. But there is tsunami warnings, or at least alerts out there. I'm not sure if that's going to cause any trouble or not.
Yeah, no, I was actually running on the treadmill this morning, and some guy was telling me about it. I was like, yeah, I kind of heard about it quickly, but I didn't read too much about it. But yeah, you have to be thankful, right? Because those things are just unpredictable.
Yeah. So what? Give us your backstory, and then we'll kind of get into the ingredients and everything. But what did you? You weren't originally from LA, so I guess give us some of your backstory.
Oh, okay. So it's funny because people ask me about this too. So I'm traditionally I'm a personal trainer and a nutritionist, and I've been doing that for years. And I never ever intended to have a company called Green Regimen or any sell supplements or anything like that. But some years back, my mom had cancer. So after speaking to her doctors, trying to figure out, okay, what could we do for her? I had all these questions. And I came back with actually more questions than answers, because when it comes to cancer, doctors don't really know what to do. So what I figured is, well, I only have one mom. Let me figure this out. So I just really started doing some research. And from the research, I ended up coming up upon maybe giving her green smoothies would help her maybe block the free radical movement. Maybe it'll stop the growth of cancer. I didn't know, but I figured, okay, I have to do something. We had to move quick. So I pretty much made her green smoothies for about 2 months, and she slowly started to regain her health, but I was pretty consistent, and within 4 months' time, miraculously, she actually dropped 50 pounds. She's been cancer-free ever since then, and then that's when I said, well, you know what? Maybe there's something here. Maybe there's other people I can help, because I didn't even expect this to happen with my mom, but surely someone else is going through this. So I said, you know what? Let me take those same ingredients that I use in her green smoothies. Let me add some plant-based protein to that, and maybe I can make like an optimal health meal replacement shake. And the funny thing is, I went to Whole Foods because I figured, okay, I have the whole micronutrient profile down, but let me try some of these plant-based proteins on the market. I'm not gonna say the names because I've come across a lot of the owners, and I do like some of these guys, right? But they really didn't make this shit. Okay, you know what? They made her green smoothies taste like dirt. Just gonna tell you, spend a lot of money. But I said, you know what? Hey, you studied, nutrition. Why don't you figure this out? So I decided to combine hemp and pea protein. I figured I want the strongest amino acid possible for a plant-based protein, and then I added in her spirulina that I was giving her in her shakes. Broccoli, kale, chia seed, no stevia. I use organic coconut water, and we have elite lifestyle nutrition. So it's just crazy because I didn't start it as a business, but it just kind of happened. And then once you start a business, then you realize how difficult and impossible business is. But it's been going actually pretty well. We're currently sold in GNC and obviously Amazon, our website and stuff like that. So it's been a long process, but I started all of our products. They come from I'd say the structure of efficacy, and because I was able to create, that type of blend and formulation for my mom, I figured, okay, well, let me just continue creating more products.
Okay, so I'm on your website right now. So the product that you're giving to your mom, and that's an awesome story, by the way. So congratulations to you, kudos and everything. So the product that you were giving to your mom, is that kind of formulated here on the website?
You got it. Yeah. So it's called Elite Lifestyle Nutrition. So it's a plant-based nutritional shake. So the hemp pea protein, spirulina, maca chia seed, coconut water, rounds out the sweetness profile, and then you'll also see. So since then, a lot of our customers were like, well, this product works great, but what else do you have for us, right? So then I created Green Regimen Energy and Focus capsules, which are just a pretty simple nootropic capsule that gives you sustained clean energy, and customers seem to really love that. And then my newest product it's called Kiwi Optimize, which is a clinically studied ingredient called Actazin, and it helps rebuild the gut microbiome. So it's a simple chewable, tastes pretty delicious, and what's interesting is from these products, now we're going to be scaling our company to India and making some additional products and taking and exploring Indian ingredients and bringing them to the United States. So yeah, all this has come about as a surprise, but we're just going with the energy.
Yeah, very, very cool. So when did you start all this? I guess when was the diagnosis and you started making your own stuff and when did you kind of create the company?
So the diagnosis was back in 2010. And then from there, I started a YouTube channel, pretty much after that, 2012. And then at that point, I still continued what I was doing just with, being a nutritionist. But then I initially started with a kids product in 2016. That was my first product. But I failed with that because I didn't know how to market a product. I said, you know what? I figured, okay, if I can help kids at that early stage of, pre-obesity, which usually is a precursor to cancer, maybe I can help out. Didn't work out too well, but it was somewhat of a blessing in disguise because it helped me, learn how to formulate. And then 2017 is when I released Elite Lifestyle Protein, and it's been, pretty great since then. Because when it comes to plant-based protein, which I'm sure you guys have tried before, typically they do not taste very good, but this one actually tastes very good.
Right. So yeah. Okay. Cool. So what are some of the lessons you learned on the kids product and stuff? Do you have any quick tips for young entrepreneurs or anything like that?
Yes. Well, one thing is I didn't have a mentor when I started, and I think having a mentor is critical because when it comes to, let's say, a kids product, there's a difference between the customer and the consumer. right? So the consumer of a kid's product is the child, but the actual customer could be their grandmother, could be the mom, could be the dad. And there's a lot of barriers when it comes to being able to make that purchase when it comes to the kids' product. So that was something I never considered. And then, of course, when it comes to just marketing in general, how to market, I didn't, because I started the company out of a passion, not necessarily out of a smart strategic business decision. I definitely learned the more difficult way. but for sure. So I would definitely say get a mentor and really look to know who you're marketing to and who your target market is.
Excellent. Okay, and then you brought up
you have to become an entrepreneur. If you don't have to, don't do it. But if you have to, if you feel like you need to.
I'm obviously very pro entrepreneur. We sometimes get into the business stuff too on this channel because a lot of people within this is a very entrepreneurial industry and everything. There's definitely corporations involved, especially at the bigger levels. But a lot of the people that have been on this podcast are indeed business owners or equity holders or like heavily invested stakeholders that are not, working for massive corporations and stuff. So it's definitely a trend in this industry. And we get a lot of types of people like yourself, actually, like, a lot of the best companies have been solved out of personal need or just like frustration with the industry. Like we've probably had a dozen episodes where people kind of said similar things. So there's always room. Yeah. Okay, so then you brought up the taste on the plant proteins and everything. And so without giving away all your secrets or anything, what are you doing to mitigate that?
Well, what I realized is I'm not sure if the owner-operators of some of these companies are actually using their product, because if they were on a daily basis, they would probably figure out that a lot of these plant-based proteins are just not palatable. But then I found that a lot of that could be due to just the measurements of the protein profile that they're using, sometimes due to the quality. Plant-based protein has come a long way since I initially started, for sure. But as a result, there's much more competition now in the space. But pretty much, the thing is like the biggest, I'd say, hurdle with plant-based protein is making sure that the taste is not chalky. That's a huge issue that plant-based proteins traditionally have. Luckily, ours isn't chalky, but it did take a lot of iterations to get to that point. So you have to be willing to do what it takes, and it's going to take some time, when it comes. But now, there's so many different types of plant-based proteins and so many different processes now that it's much easier to make a palatable plant-based protein than it was when I started, for sure.
Oh, yeah.
I was going to say, I like the word that you use, hurdle, because I think that there's obviously a lot of factors, a lot of other things that you would sell the product on, but at the end of the day, the hurdle, like all of those other things help and are able to be sold, but you won't make the sale you won't make the resale probably if that product is not enjoyable, right? You want consumers to come back, and that's why all those iterations matter, because if they might buy your product for all of the quality I see organic all over your ingredient panel, they might like all those things, but if it tastes horrible, they're not going to come back for that, second purchase.
So true. You can get them once if you can get them at all, and after that, pretty much, if it doesn't taste good. And then again, and I should say another thing is if they're not seeing any sort of benefit, the benefit to the customer to me has always been huge. If they're not seeing the benefit, you can forget about having a return customer rate that's anything worth its salt, because they're just not going to repurchase, right? And that also leaves a bad taste in the customer's mouth when they start thinking about your brand and maybe other products that you have. So it's always been important to me.
One thing that Mike and I talk a lot about is that acute benefits. A lot of the time it's easier for consumers to. I'm sure you see it. They flock to energy drinks in the coolers, they flock to pre-workouts because they can feel those things in that 30-minute period, and it can be a little more difficult with things like greens and proteins, because they might more so be buying these things because they're not buying other things. They'll buy a plant protein because whey proteins bother their stomach, or they're buying greens because they're not eating them. So it can be more difficult to have a really compelling, like you said, feeling or experience that they feel like they're really getting something out of it. So
it's actually really ironic you said that, because all of that's pretty much what I led with our newest products. I figured the customer needs to be able to feel these products immediately, because you're right, with a plant-based protein, it does take some time. One, as long as it tastes good, that's great. However, over the course of a few weeks to a month, are they feeling any sort of digestive issues? Just because it's plant-based doesn't mean that you're not going to have digestive issues, because a lot of people do have issues when it comes to consuming plant-based protein. But we solve that with having digestive enzymes. But, these are things that you have to just go through the process, especially with the formulation process and the trials that you have. And, for me, like I said, with the way I started, the way I did my trials was, friends and family, right? But that's not really how you get a true indication of, long-term success. So then from there, that's when you, if you're lucky enough to get into a retail store, you do that, and then you'll start to really get the understanding of how well your product stacks up against the others in the market.
Yeah, definitely. Most people should not be expecting a protein powder to be like experiential, like a nootropic or, energy drink. But at the same time, don't want the negatives. And you do want them thinking, okay, like you want them in a way hooked on that, on the good feeling it provides, whether it's just from like feeling better from the protein or the other stuff you've added. You've mentioned twice coconut water in here. And I think it's pretty cool because you have it fairly high on the label. And one of the things that I definitely believe, I'm like very pro potassium. Like it's easy to get sodium. Like we can all just get tons of sodium, and a lot of the balance of sodium and potassium is a huge deal. So like to me, one of the best and easiest ways to make someone feel better is to toss them some potassium. Not enough to like put their heart into palpitations or anything, but get them like at least slightly more balanced. So I kind of think that might be a slight secret weapon you have going on in here. Which maybe even helps with I don't know if the taste as much as, but like the texture too. Like anything that can kind of smooth out the pea protein is definitely going to be appreciated for sure. So
texture and sweetness as well, because there's no stevia, and unfortunately a lot of companies will use a cheaper quality of stevia, which will produce an aftertaste, and there's no aftertaste with our product, and a lot of that is due to the coconut water.
So you're not, and so I wanted to get back to that. You mentioned you're not using stevia.
Not stevia, so no stevia at all. So when I was trialing a lot of the competitor proteins, they all use stevia, and they all have aftertaste. And it's so funny because customers, when they try it, they're like, "Wait a minute, there's no aftertaste," because plant-based protein almost has this stigma of how people expect it to taste, right? And especially when there's so many different brands out there and they all seem to taste, or they have that aftertaste, and when ours didn't, that's when I knew, okay, we definitely have something here. We just have to get it out to enough people for them to understand.
Interesting. Yeah. Okay. I'm not sure when we're publishing this versus our conversation from IFT with Tyrus, but in this other episode, which might come in the future for the listeners, I'm kind of ragging on stevia just a little bit. And so like, because we've got partner companies who've definitely made it way better, but it's still got that bitter sweetness to it, and it bites you at the end. And if you're looking for a sweetener, in our opinions, like nothing beats sucralose and everything. Clearly, that's not what your consumer in this product wants. So you do have like, you kind of have a mixture. You might be getting some out of the coconut water powder. Inulin doesn't have a bad taste, but you have organic rice syrup solids too, which I think is interesting. And then the vanilla flavor itself is pretty decently high. So
absolutely.
I think
the mixability for the brown rice solids, I mean, it's huge. I've tried tapioca, did not work as well. So it's so interesting, because when you're formulating, a plant-based protein, you already have the odds so stacked up against you, because it's not whey. Everyone's used to whey. So all of a sudden, when plant-based protein comes on the scene, they've tried them. They don't really taste very palatable. So, there's a lot of different challenges and hurdles that you have to overcome with just having a product such as that. So you want to make sure that you look to check off all the boxes in terms of, not chalky, no aftertaste, and actually effective.
And it's still 25 grams of protein, which is way more than the carbs you have there. So it's protein leverage and everything. Pretty cool, man. So when you're dealing with these revisions and stuff, are you actually going to the manufacturer, or do you just mail bags back and forth and all that?
Oh yeah, no. Because I actually started that my kids' product with this same manufacturer, so I have a great relationship with them, so I can go down to the factory at any point, and we sit down and we'll discuss. Yeah, it's so important. And I'll tell you this, when I started, when I had the kids' product, I didn't understand how important it was to have a very strong relationship with your contract manufacturer, but that's something that you really want to have, for sure.
For sure. Okay, so getting off the protein a little bit, I guess, yes, walk us through what else you have. You mentioned the nootropic, and then yeah, we do want to get back to Gremin at some point, but I'm kind of curious. Like, it seems like you've been through the loop a few times here, so that's pretty cool.
I really have, and like I said, when customers asked, okay, well, this is great that you have the plant-based protein, we're buying it, we're subscribers, but what else do you have? That's when I said, okay, well, what type of formulation can I come up with that would give the customer some sort of clean energy boost through the day, but no crash? And I'm definitely not against caffeine. I think caffeine is great. I definitely take caffeine every day. But some people are just stuck with cups of coffee and, they deal with the crash. And I said, okay, well, within doing some research, found out that theanine would help alleviate that crash. Then I added some tyrosine, and we have Green Regimen energy and focus capsules, which is, like I said, clean energy, very, very simple. And customers actually feel it. And that was the biggest thing. When I tried that product, I needed customers to feel it, because I actually felt it when I first tried it. I'm like, okay, this is something, but I'm not going to be the customer buying all of my product, right? So I needed to make sure that it worked. And then from there, I released which is the newest product, and that's the gut microbiome, pretty much in essence enhancer, and that's Kiwi optimized. So have you heard of the ingredient Actazin?
I've heard of, but I don't know much about it. So if you can give us, it's kiwi fruit powder, right?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, it's pretty simple on how it works. But you actually take this chewable with any protein meal that you're eating, and because sometimes protein will ferment in the gut, and that sometimes causes inflammation. Well, what the Kiwi Optimized does is really, really simple. It just helps improve your digestion and helps build the gut microbiome flora within your system. So it's one of those things where you can take these chewables once a day for 30 days, and then maybe for the next week you can actually go without them, or you can continue. But what it does is it actually helps build the gut microflora. So it's not something that if you stop taking, it's immediately going to stop working. I mean, at some point it would, because traditionally as people we'll just go back to our same diets, right? But for the most part, this is something that customers have liked, because it does work, and especially with those customers who are irregular, it definitely puts you right back on your regular track pretty quick.
I don't know very much about this ingredient, so prefacing what I'm about to say with that. But one thing that kind of stands out to me is that it has an acute benefit in that it contains actinidin, which is actually it's a digestive enzyme that helps with protein in the acute, but it seems to build up over time, like you're saying,
over time,
improving regularity and helping with your gut flora, which is interesting because gut ingredients are usually like, oh, you got to take this for 4 weeks, or it's a digestive enzyme that you take for right now. But it seems to do both, which is interesting.
Yeah. So.
Yeah. What I know from just other diet circles and stuff is that if you're having regularity issues, let's say constipation, eating kiwi is one of the most rock star ways of doing it. I don't think you want to eat the peel. First off, it doesn't taste good, but I'm not sure. I'm not sure what they're extracting in this ingredient. Hopefully, it's like the fruit, and I think it does say kiwi fruit. But yeah, kiwi fruit. Okay, cool. And so eating kiwi, they figured it out. A lot of people know that kiwi definitely helps get you more regular. And a lot of people claim it's way better than prunes too. So we always go to prunes. It kind of becomes an old person joke or whatever. But I think kiwis actually are possibly more legitimate. And so
it tastes
these
much
guys.
better.
Yeah, that too. I'm not against prunes, honestly, but these guys actually made a science-based ingredient out of it, is what it looks like. So
absolutely.
pretty good find here. And so you are, your manufacturer has a tablet press. You're pressing a tablet with some, is it allulose?
So actually what I did with that product is, because obviously you're familiar with supply side West, so it was one of those things where I wanted to find a clinically studied ingredient that I could share with our current customer base, but obviously create a new product that I can have some clinical studies behind. So then when I did come across this ingredient, of course, like I do everything, I trial it out myself. It worked pretty well. Then I, gave it to some of our other customers. It actually worked, and I said, okay, well, there's some. So I actually have a different manufacturer who creates the chewable.
Gotcha. Yeah. Not everyone's into the tablet press thing. I've kind of dug into that because at some point I want to make a dextrose candy, but that's a whole other story.
Okay.
Well, it's completely off topic, but everything is like the corn syrup stuff nowadays. Sometimes I just want some sweet tarts that are just dextrose candy, and you don't see like the tubes of sweet tarts anymore. Like it's and you have like post workout sugar and everything. It's all corn slop, and I'm like, no, I just want some dextrose candy.
Corn starch.
I have to make it myself.
Have you guys, while we're off topic, have you guys seen the study on kiwis and sleep in elite athletes?
No.
I think this was a couple months back. This study gave a bunch of elite athletes 2 kiwis before bed every night, and they had like insane improvements in sleep quality. Just the only change was kiwi.
Is that right?
Yeah.
Was it
I've been
golden
considering-
kiwi or green kiwi or?
I don't know specifics, but I've been considering starting to eat more kiwis at night.
Interesting. This could be something that just not enough companies. We talked to a lot of ingredient companies, obviously. That's why we're here. And it's a fruit that like we get a lot of stuff out of mangoes, mangofarin, all this stuff. Kiwi doesn't get that much love. I think there's a couple studies up here, Ben.
Yeah. What I found interesting though was it was just a raw kiwi. Like in so many studies, it's like they're giving them a very specific extract, and like the actual fruit that they're getting it from isn't really relevant to the study. But they were really having these people eat 2 kiwis, which I think it's pretty cool to be able to get a significant effect out of something in its like natural amount.
Well, if you just think about it, just us growing up, I mean, how often did you eat kiwi? It's just not something that we would come across.
Not much, a little bit. Yeah.
No,
Yeah,
I mean,
not
to
very
eat
often.
2 kiwis a night for like a few weeks, it's a lot. That's more kiwis than I've ever eaten in my life combined.
Yeah, I mean, even though they're small, but still, right? I mean, it's just not something that you're used to eating.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's
Whoa,
interesting.
yeah.
News
There's
to
like
me.
studies that go back to 2011, like just eating 2 kiwi fruits 1 hour before bed, nightly for 4 weeks, like 13.4% total sleep time, sleep efficiency up 5.4%. Like sleeping 13% longer, that's a solid chunk of time there. So
That's 56 kiwis. I have not eaten 56 kiwis. I can tell you that. You know, like,
well, interesting. That's a cool ingredient. So that's and then it's Actazin.
And Actazin, absolutely Actazin. That's
cool.
really interesting because sometimes you can buy kiwi, and if they're too firm, then they're tart, so not really great. Right? But if you obviously let them ripen a bit, now they're super sweet.
Yeah.
So it's really interesting.
wow,
Yeah,
Actazin is in a few products that we've actually talked about, Mike. It's
Yeah,
in
if you go to the
organic greens
website,
from
you'll see
Caged.
Oh, really? Okay. Well, that's been a while. Okay, gotcha.
It's
We'll have to
interesting.
revisit that. Well, cool. Ty, thanks for the education
Of
there.
course.
Always
Yes,
good to see a
of course.
good ingredient. Yeah, maybe we've been sleeping on kiwis and you found it.
That's
Props
actually
to you.
pretty awesome.
All right, cool. All right, so those are the 3 ingredients. Where does Gremin come into this whole thing? And is Zeus involved in what you're doing in India, or how's it? What's the connective tissue there?
Connection, like how did I come around? So it's funny. I was driving one day and I got a call from a mutual associate of I would say Gremin, but of Zeus Hygia. Do you know Uday Gosilia?
Oh, yeah.
You know Uday.
Yeah.
Okay, perfect.
From
So
the phone
Uday
calls
called
that
me.
we've had.
He was so excited. He was like, "Hey, I just spoke to these guys. Zeus Hygia. I didn't know who Zeus Hygia was." And he was like, "Yeah, they have this product, made of curcumin and green coffee bean extract, and it's supposed to help with post workout and muscle. What did he say? He said more like lean body mass increasing." And I said, "Okay, great." And he was like, "Oh, they have clinical studies." So here's my thing. And it's just me, just how I am personally. Anytime I hear about clinical studies, my first thought is, okay, that's great, especially when they have to do with sports performance supplements. So my thought is, okay, in these clinical studies, what types of activities did they have the participants participate in, right? Conduct. So I said, okay, Uday, I said, you know what? Why don't you send me, the clinicals, or have the guys from Zeus Hygia send me the clinicals? I'm just curious on, what this ingredient is all about. And it just so happened, I think they were just completing, a newer clinical study. So at any rate, they sent me the clinical studies. I read the clinical study and I said, you know what? As I thought, I think they had the participants do like a 6-minute walk test. Maybe there were some squats and push-ups, but it was a very limited amount of, or I should say, it wasn't the most intense type of activity. So I said to myself, well, me personally, my gym workouts are pretty intense, and I figure, if I were to create any sort of product with an ingredient such as this, I would want, athletes, and I would want, just even avid gym goers who have somewhat of an intensity level to get a benefit. Because again, I'm all about efficacy. So after reading the clinical study, it was just ironic, after I read the clinical studies, talking to Uday, and I was on my way to India anyway. Now, I didn't realize that Zeus Hygia was going to be, they're in a city called Hyderabad, India. And I didn't realize that I was going to see them on that trip, but I ended up visiting their office, and it's Arun and Shankar. They're the owners of Zeus Hygia. And I sat there and I told them, I said, listen, fellas, I said, the ingredient sounds fantastic. I read the clinical studies. I said, however, for myself, if I were to ever create a product with an ingredient such as this, one, I'd have to try it first to make sure that it works. And even if it didn't work for me, I need to trial this product out with some people. I said, because after reading a clinical study, I didn't think that the intensity level of some of the activities that you had the participants go through would be enough for a product that I'd want to release. And you know what? It was just really nice to be able to, because this was the first time that I was able to speak to a supplier and the actual creators of, such an ingredient. And they listened to exactly what I had to say. And they said, you know what? That makes a lot of sense. So I ended up receiving, once I got back to the United States, receiving the Gremin. And I have a good network of athletes. And me, myself, mentally, I want to, think that I'm somewhat of an athlete, but at least my workouts are somewhat intense. So I immediately, the first thing that I did with Gremin is I was taking Curcumin. I stopped Curcumin. And I said, you know what, I'm really going to try this ingredient, because according to the clinical studies, muscle fatigue was reduced, lean body mass was increased. I said, okay, well, you know what I'm going to do? I'm going to change my workout, because if I change my workout, I'm going to be so sore, and it's going to be very challenging to get through the next couple weeks to a month, because I've changed my workout. It's going to be very, very intense. And you know what? I'm going to give this ingredient a shot. So, besides giving the ingredient to some of the other athletes within the network, myself, I changed my workout. And for the first week, once I changed my workout, I'd say like day 2, very, very sore. This is day 2 of taking Gremin. And all I did was just take Gremin. Like I said, I didn't take any other inflammation, reducing products or anything such as that. The first week, what I noticed is I was sore, but I was able to work through the soreness much easier than I normally would be. And I said, okay, but I didn't think too much of it. Rolling into week 2, what was interesting was by the time I got to week 2, some of the other participants that I had in my little trial, they came back to me and they were like, we feel like more energized, like we can actually, get through our workouts and just not as fatigued. But I didn't feel as good as they did. Me personally, I didn't feel as great as they did until the end of week 2. Then I noticed, you know what? I'm actually pushing more and I'm not as sore, but even if I am sore, I'm able to push through. And that's really huge for me, because sometimes you can be so sore and, other people are so sore when they work out that they'll actually, go a little bit less intense. I don't like to go less intense. I like to really push it if I can push it. I'm at the gym. Why else am I there, right? But I was able to really push it. And then I'll tell you this, by week 3, something happened that I didn't expect to happen. And I shared this with Arun immediately. So at the end of week 2, I have this nagging elbow issue that seems to, like, elbow inflammation. It could be from some, past injury. And it just, it'll be somewhat aggravating, and it's, it's kind of intermittent. It comes and goes. Well, by week 3, what I noticed is, okay, this issue is, like, I should say by the end of week 2, the issue is there. By the end of week 3, I no longer had the elbow pain. And I told Arun, I was like, this is not what I expected Gremin to do. I said, I know that there is, inflammation reducing properties, but with an injury such as my elbow, typically what would happen is once I warm up, let's say I'm doing tricep pull down, tricep extensions, I'll hit a certain weight to where I just can't. I can't go anymore because I just literally can't move. It's too much pain. I was able to work through. Like I said, the pain was gone, but even en route to the pain being gone, I was able to continue just working out. And I said, you know what? There's something here with this ingredient. And when I started trialing some of the other guys who were taking it, and when I say athletes, one guy, he's avid UFC fighter. He's and then I have another one who's a power lifter. These guys were saying that they felt really good on Gremin. So I said, okay, this is great. And I'd say by the end of week 4, I had one guy. Now this guy is he's just a normal gym goer, but he's there pretty much 6 days a week. And what he told me is, he said, you know what I feel after taking this product is that I don't have as much anxiety when it comes to, like, for example, on leg day, when you know that leg day is coming, deadlift, squats, just the absolute worst, the most exhausting. But he said, you know what, like, I'm able to actually attack these weights on a much different level before. So something neurological is going on, but he said, I like it. So I said, you know what, I kind of understand what you're saying, because, I'm able to work through, these workouts without, much of a problem. So I told Arun that. I said, you know what, you guys have something here for sure. So much that what I did is I added Gremin to another ingredient, which I can't say here because if I say it, then, next thing I know, it'll be released. But for sure, Green Regimen will have and I don't know if it's going to, I would assume it's going to be either pre or post, but it will be a sports performance product with Gremin, because for sure the product does work.
I think before we get into all of that, I think it's really funny. We talk about this is like the dichotomy of sports nutrition. We can, give our thoughts on the quality of a scientific study, but at the same time, we also value the feedback of like N of one, like athletes adding it into their lives and like anecdotal responses. Like, I'm not criticizing any of that. I do the same thing. Like, I will criticize a university study, but at the same time, really value what it does for my life. Like, you're like, I'm going to change my workout. Like, that's not exactly like a controlled double-blind study, but that feedback that you get from that is very valuable. I think we all know that, like, science sometimes comes after the bros in the gym try the ingredients and figure out where it works for them as well.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I love how you keep bringing up intensity, because, like, I'm not a super athlete or anything, but it's like the workouts where I'm way more intense and sweating more and all that are just the ones that actually like move the needle and everything. And I see like the guys who are more intense in the gym are the ones with the results, like, in general. So it makes me excited. But I think with the different studies, like, first off, like, all data, we like, even if it's an animal study, we are happy to see it. I say this a lot because, like, you learn mechanisms. There's stuff that we can't learn from human studies. But, like, for a long time, the supplement industry was underfunded, kind of plagued by, like, we were looking at nootropic ingredients, for instance, that were only on old people in, like, disease states and stuff like that. And so you kind of have to extrapolate from there. And as the industry has grown, like, we've kind of gotten away from that, and that's been nice. And similarly, we have, like, different training studies, but yeah, you could tell, like, most people are not going to train as intensely as you. But then there's also studies like there was an HMB study from back in the day at Jacob Wilson's lab where, like, even the placebo group made crazy gains. It's like, because these dudes had like a ridiculous workout, and so, like, most people are not working that hard and they're not getting that many gains out of the placebo. But then you saw, like, the active ingredient with the free acid HMB made even more gains, so it was like, and I believe the data. It's just the fact is that most people are probably not, they're getting worked in that lab down in Tampa. So, like, that's kind of, and so you could criticize that too, but it's like, hey man, if you train this hard, you want these recovery type ingredients, like, especially for people who are like 2-a-day athletes, like real athletes or whatever, or people who are getting after it and don't want to be sore and don't want their day ruined, or like don't want to have to go easy the next day. It's like, this is where we release our energy and stuff. So I appreciate what you've like kind of put there, because it's not for everyone, but for the people who care, it's important.
Oh, there's no question. And the thing is, if you're an avid gym goer, no matter how intense that you hit your workout on Monday, you know that you have to get up on Tuesday and do it again. So you want to make sure that with whatever you're doing, whatever supplementation, regimen that you're on, that it's working. Because I know for me, if I have a not so powerful day in the gym, it bothers me all day. It really does, and it really does. And it's just me, right? It's like most people are not like that. Most people are just happy just to be there and to show up. But I actually want to see results, And as you get older, you become more. At least for myself, I'll become more and more. I'd say competitive, right? Against myself, right? That's the only person I really need to be competitive about. But I would truly say, and that's the biggest thing with Gremin, is that I was really surprised after changing the workout and knowing that I was going to be intensely sore, that I could see not only results with more reps, more sets, more energy, but the fact is even with the inflammation, just inflammation being reduced, like my elbow. So this is a big surprise, because I'm sure you've read clinical studies and you've tried these products and these ingredients and they just don't work. And I think unfortunately our industry is plagued with that type of situation. So at least for myself and Green Regimen releasing our products, efficacy will always be front and foremost.
Well, there's a big question that I don't have the answer to, and I don't think that any of us have the answer to. But when it comes to antioxidants and inflammation and training, because training itself needs to be inflammatory, you need to cause a response in the body. Like, you have to do something stressful enough that your body makes a response. And so antioxidants are obviously all very helpful for fighting free radicals, but there's also this thought process on the internet that the second you consume that antioxidant around the workout, it kills the effects of the workout, which I just find to be really not compelling if you're training intensely, right? Like, if you are causing the actual stress to your body that you need to, I don't think that it's going to be that easy to just flip the light switch off. It reminds me of Matt Jansen used to talk about, coming back to your intensity comment, when he was really bringing progressive overload to the big names in bodybuilding, he was talking about how intensity is probably the most important factor out of all of it. Diet, training, sleep, whatever. Intensity is what causes your body to realize we need to make a change, because there is a stress or there's an issue that you're causing for your body that you're telling it, we're going to keep doing this for a long time, so you can either make more muscle or not, because your body's really not supposed to hold on to as much muscle as we probably would like it to. And similarly, he has his guys take berberine post workout, which, if you look at the AMPK pathway and all this, there's this whole thing that maybe that shuts down muscle protein synthesis. But the fact of the matter is, if you're really getting in the gym and getting after it and forcing your body to adapt to a high intensity training, I don't think that worrying about an antioxidant in a supplement is going to be very compelling, because you're really telling your body hey, we're training hard. We're committing to be a high level athlete. You're going to need to start to put on some muscle. Don't worry about this antioxidant that we're throwing in here. In this case, curcumin kills inflammation, and a lot of people in our comment sections would be like, "Oh, you can't take that around your workout because it kills inflammation from your workout." But I genuinely believe that if you're really getting after it, it's not that simple of a question.
Oh, no question. I think those people in the comments who do say that, they're saying that because they read that somewhere as opposed to trying it themselves. When it comes to antioxidants, I'm taking all types of green powders pre-workout just because I like to make my own, and I'm killing it. I'm absolutely killing the gym. So there's no question that, if antioxidants do reduce inflammation, it's not to the point of, it's not going to be too overbearing on a workout that is absolutely intense and you're absolutely killing it. I'm not worried about any of that stuff, and I doubt anyone who's killing the gym is worried either.
Mm-hmm. On the note of curcumin, and you're having a pain. You were taking curcumin beforehand, and having some elbow pain. It sounds like, but then Gremin seemed to possibly work better than the curcumin itself that you had been taking beforehand.
But see, Gremin does have curcumin extract as well.
Right. Yes.
Yes. But maybe it was with the green coffee, with the green coffee bean as well. But for sure, it was definitely better than.
Okay, because that's kind of and I'm not thinking that there's that much pain relief in green coffee beans. There might be, there's chlorogenic acids do a bunch of really cool stuff too. But I'm wondering if you're getting a better response from this ingredient than a different curcumin. They Arun in this previous portion of this episode mentioned that they have a patent pending, or maybe it's patented now, encapsulation technique. And so the issue with curcumin is bioavailability. And so maybe whatever he's doing with the encapsulation is definitely working better than what you had before in terms of getting the actives to where they need to go in terms of pain relief, at least.
It's actually interesting. I never considered that. In the clinical studies, I do recall the participants, they took their Gremin sometime during the day, and I always took mine pre-workout. So, and it was just something I wanted to try. I really wanted to make the conditions as challenging as possible for this ingredient, just to make sure that it did work. And I was in awe. I was really surprised.
When you talk about you're changing up to an even more intense workout or a different type of workout, can you run us through a little bit of what you're doing there?
So, pretty much all I was doing. So prior to taking the Gremin, the workout I was doing, I was on the workout for about 6 weeks, standard push pull. What I did is I changed it up to where I was increasing the actual weight, lowering the reps. So I stayed between 5 to 10, much heavier and much more volume than I did prior. So I knew, especially on the squats and deadlifts, with that added volume, and I was doing squats the same day, deadlifts, Romanian deadlifts, same day, leg press. The leg days are just ridiculous, right? But, it is true what one of the participants did say. I knew that leg day was coming. I do legs twice a week. Didn't matter. I'm just ready to hit it and attack it. Even if I feel a little bit of soreness, it really, once you're in the workout, your mind is just there. Not saying that Gremin is supposed to have these, super focused neurological effects, but I'm saying in terms of anxiety, because I do feel that if you are an avid lifter and if you're planning what your workout is that week, when the tougher days are. To me, legs are the toughest day, but I'm able to, I was able to go through legs as if I was doing shoulders or buys that day. So it was pretty astonishing. And at the same time, just to be clear, I was using a higher dosage than what was in the clinical study as well, because I knew, whomever's doing a 6-minute walk test is not gonna hit the intensity level that I am. So I needed to up the dosage.
We're overachievers in this industry for sure.
We really are. We really are. We really are. There's no question about it.
Do you remember how much you were taking?
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, I was doing 1,000 milligrams.
Okay. Well, very cool. So, do you have a timeline on when we expect a product to come out, or is that going to be geared towards India? Is this something that would be?
It's a great question. No, so the timeline I'd say is going to be sometime in 2026 because and it'll be geared for the United States. The reason why I say that is because what I'm launching in India is such a massive project. I'm releasing a plant-based protein for India. So we're really close to launching that. We should be fully launched by December, if not November. So that's taking up so much time that I want to just allocate all time and resources to that project first, and then I can come back with the Gremin and see how that does.
Okay, so how will that one be different than what you already have here in America? Is there something that Indians appreciate more, or something you have to remove, or anything like that?
Have you ever been to India? Have either one of you visited?
I have not. No.
Uday's actually trying to get me to go on a trip with him in February.
In February. Okay, So let me tell you this. With you two gentlemen being the astute scholars when it comes to ingredients, you need to go to India, because as far as I'm concerned, it's my third visit there. India is now my second home. And I'm sure Uday tells you excitedly that all the benefits of going to India. Oh, yeah. But it's one of those things, it's one of those places where once you go, then you'll understand what I'm saying. But until you go, then it won't be as clear to you. But it's going to be a great place. The people are great, of course, but you're going to realize that India has so many untapped resources. And I do feel it's one of those countries that will just, continue to boom over the next 10 years. So for sure, definitely go when you have the opportunity. If you're going to go in February, go in February. I might be there. So
he was trying to get me to go in August, and I thought about the temperature it would be in August, and a couple other projects.
No, it's actually good you didn't go in August, because it's I just got back 48 hours ago, and it's monsoon season there. So yeah. I do feel that you made the right decision on postponing that. Anytime after November would be a better time to go. So yeah.
Got it.
Good idea. Oh yes, but in regards to the Indian protein, the reason why I asked you, have you ever visited? Because once you visit India and you taste the food of India, for me, I feel India has the most delicious food I've ever tasted, and I've traveled to a lot of different countries. And what I felt at the time was, or currently what I feel is, if you're going to develop a product such as a plant-based protein, and you're developing it for residents of India, culturally based, and residents who know what good food tastes like, well, your protein better taste just as good, right? So that product is going to be designed for the Indian palate specifically. So it's going to be much different than the United States version. In terms of the amino acid profile, it'll be a complete protein. So, we want to keep that science there. It's going to be a meal replacement. It'll have that aspect, superfood aspect, but the taste, because Indians really care about the taste of their food. So, but it's a very exciting project. So looking very much forward to that.
Awesome. I see on your website, I don't know how this happened or what. On the top of your website, you say now available at GNC, click here. So if you click on it, it says gnc.com/ this is me being a nerd here, but it says gnc.com/ the-next-big-thing. And then it has their numbers and .html. So I'm not sure how you did it, but GNC is calling you the next big thing in their URL.
Well, I could tell you what happened. So GNC with this other group called Startup CPG. They ran a contest to see who was the next big thing in the supplement industry. And we were one of the winners of the Next Big Thing contest. And that's how we were able to receive the opportunity to be on the shelves of GNC. So that's how it works.
Awesome. Well, that's awesome. Yeah, it snuck into the URL here. So I think that's just awesome. It's like a sign of great things to come.
Indeed. I definitely received that.
Well, cool. I don't have any other questions. I think it's a great story, and we're going to get your stuff all listed in PriceFlow and everything, because we unfortunately we didn't had it captured or anything. So it's been pretty fun getting to know you and everything here.
Likewise.
and hearing your story.
I'll make sure to send you guys some so you can try it too, because it's actually delicious. I'm not just saying that because I created it.
Yeah, no, absolutely. It's got to be. Otherwise, GNC's not going to pick it up. So
very true.
Very cool.
True. Indeed.
All right, Ty. Well, thank you so much for joining us, and that should conclude everything that we have here. And yeah, subscribe to the podcast. Oh yeah, where do we follow you and everything? Give us your what social media you're active on, all that stuff.
Okay, so it's very easy. You can follow us on Instagram or even LinkedIn at Green Regimen. That's the easiest way. So at Green Regimen on LinkedIn, on Instagram. I'd say those are the two main platforms for sure.
Perfect. And do you keep a private page or anything like that, or is it all right on the brand?
No, everything's on the brand. Yeah, everything's on the brand as of right now. I've been told a private page would be beneficial, but as of now, everything's on the brand. So
yeah, show us some of that training intensity. But I hear you.
Right.
Excellent. Well, Ty, thank you for your time here.
Thank you, fellas. I appreciate the opportunity indeed.